Sometimes you got to be a prophet. Am I right? See? So you need to learn that there's times in your life where we're going to need to perform all of the gifts, use all of the gifts. But here's the key, and that's to excel in the area of your dominant gifts. If you don't have the gift of showing mercy, you don't want to get in that type of a ministry, right? If you don't have the gift of administration, you don't want to throw yourself into a major leadership role in the church, because you'll probably never make it work. And somebody may say, well, wait, I'll study everything I need, I'll learn, and I'll become a good leader. And then, you'll get to heaven and God will say, that's great, glad you become a good leader. But what did you do with the gift that I give you? Because that's what he's going to hold you accountable for. See? All right, how it's done. How do you actually find your spiritual gift? Number one, or A, if you don't know what your spiritual gift is, you need to put it at the very top of your prayer list. You need to pray, God, show me what my spiritual gift is. And so it should always be there on the top of your prayer list. Number two, study the team ministry text. We brought about a dozen of these books along with us. This book, you'll see, recaps a lot of what I've been saying today, but also in here, there's a section on each of the gifts. For instance, here's the mercy shower, and it talks about all the characteristics of that gift, and then it says about the mercy shower. Characteristics of the mercy shower: burdens, desires, and strengths of the mercy showers. Special needs and weaknesses. How the mercy shower is misunderstood by other people. How Satan attacks that gift, and where to use that gift. And it goes through all 9 gifts. And so this is a good book to help you understand that. All right, take and evaluate the spiritual gifts inventory. All right, let's do it then. It should take us about 20 minutes to do this. First thing you need to do is you open up the questionnaire, you read the first statement. Let me read it for you. I have a consuming passion, strong desire, great concern to reach lost souls. Now, here's the key in taking this all the way through. The key is to be honest with yourself. Because we say, all Christians should have a passion for lost souls. Don't answer it the way a good Christian's supposed to answer it. Answer it the way you really feel. See, I'm in charge of a church growth organization that basically evangelism oriented, and I'll tell you, I've got to answer that not very often. See? So answer the way you really feel, not answering the way you think a good Christian should answer it. All right, then what you're going to do is go over here onto the green copy and mark hard now, because you're making a carbon copy. Here's your options. Almost always, no, I wouldn't do number 1, I'd do number 3. Almost always, occasionally, not very often. So how does each of those statements pertain to you? Almost always, occasionally, not very often. So then go to question 2. Now, don't get bogged down trying to deep analyze every question. Probably the first thing that pops in your mind is going to be the right answer. So move through it quickly. If you want to take the time to go to teamministry.com, you'll see this spiritual gifts inventory is online. When you take it there, you'll actually answer the same 108 questions that you have in front of you right now. And it'll give you a printout, about a 5-page printout, that tells you about your gift. In other words, it'll key in on your particular gift, actually 2 gifts, your top 2 gifts, and give you information about that. The same stuff, a lot of the same stuff that I was talking about that's in the book. So if you want to do that, it's teamministry.com. All right, here's what we need to do. When you are finished completely, You need to tear off that top sheet, and when you grade it, it's going to look something like this. Now this is, when you grade it, what you do is that bar, like on the top of this, when you see where it says evangelism, there's that white bar that runs all the way across, and then you've got, in this particular case, you've got a little bit of the purple marked in there. What you do is you add the numbers up that you have highlighted, and if it comes to number 10, you go into the middle of that bar, and you put an X on 10, and then you fill everything in to the left of the number 10. All right, and in my case, I only had a 3 in evangelism. The next one is prophecy. It looks like about a 16 on prophecy. So I would put an X in the 16 in the box, and then I'd fill everything to the left. And so if you go all the way down through, what you end up with is a bar graph, and it gives you kind of an instant profile, a good way of observing. And I want you to notice, they go down to mercy showing. Those people that say that I don't have any mercy showing, see, there's evidence of it right there. I have some of the gift of showing mercy. So anyhow, that's what mine would look like, and that's what yours should look like when you grade it, and you'll have that bar graph that'll help you compare a lot easier than just trying to compare some numbers. All right, here's the other thing I want you to understand, because every once in a while somebody will ask me the question, they'll say, well, how high a number do you have to have before it's your gift? Do I have to have a 10 or a 12 or 20 or whatever? It doesn't matter how high the numbers are. It's the highest numbers that count. For instance, this one I'm showing right here, take their top 3 gifts, or the gift of teaching, the gift of showing mercy, and the gift of administration, in that order, 1, 2, and 3. Now the next slide, this person has the same gifts, 1, 2, and 3, teaching, mercy showing, and administration. But you notice the difference between the two. One is answered really high, the other answers are low, but both of them have the same gift. It's just that one person answered more positively the questions than the other did. So don't think you have to have a certain number for it to indicate that your gift is. All right, when it's graded and you fill out your bar graph, if it looks like this, in other words, everything's real low, no real high numbers, real low, you possibly have a low self-esteem problem. You're not thinking of yourself as high as you should. Now, another thing though, if you notice on this particular example here, we have mercy showing is the highest. Mercy showers tend to think a little less of themselves than they should. It just kind of goes along with the gift. So if you're a little on the low side, you're high on showing mercy, it might just be confirmation, more confirmation of showing mercy. All right, next, if it looks like that, you do not have a low self-esteem problem. But you might have a problem. All right, shepherding and women. Now we've talked about this a little bit today. Now take note, this one here, the highest gift on it is the gift of pastor shepherding. I want to say this to the ladies. The gift of shepherding, the characteristics of the gift of shepherding are very similar to what I believe to be the God-given natural instincts of mothering. When you look at all of them, you say, that's mothering, and they all come out. And all right, so here's what I'm saying to you ladies. Reevaluate if you come up real high in shepherding. You might have the gift of shepherding. You might be showing, this inventory might be simply showing your God-given natural mothering instincts. So I can't tell you, you might want to discount it some. You might not. I can't tell you how much, anything there. I just want to point out that might be what you're showing instead of the actual gift itself, because of the similarities between the two. All right, even. This is probably one of the hardest ones to answer. You might say, all of mine, they're just about the same. There's not a nickel's worth of difference between any of them. So how do I tell what my gift is? Well, here's a recommendation. Get 1 or 2 of the additional spiritual gifts inventories. Give them to a couple people that is close to you, somebody that knows you, and ask them to fill it out on you. Now, of course, you got to take one for them too, because if they fill one out on you, they're going to want to fill one out for themselves. But ask them to fill it out on you. I can almost guarantee you that what they fill out is not going to look like this. It's not going to be even. They're going to see something in you that you're not seeing in yourself. They will evaluate you differently than what you are evaluating yourself. So that'll be a good help for you if it's real close. All right, there are opposite gifts. I wanted to point this out. The gift of prophecy and the gift of showing mercy are what we call opposite gifts, because the prophets are, all mercy shower thinks the prophets are hard and beat up on people. And prophets think that all mercy showers are wimps. And usually what you'll see is someone will be, if they're strong in one, they'll be very weak in the other. And it's rare that you find. Now, my brother has the gift of prophecy. He's a pastor. And he can tear you up and beat you up and stomp on your toes and cry at the same time, because he also has the gift of showing mercy. But it's rare that you have that combination. Another is the gift of teaching and the gift of exhortation. As I said earlier, teachers are very content-oriented. Exhorters are very application-oriented. And usually they don't mix. Now and then you'll find someone. My best example was Chuck Swindoll, who is a par number one theologian who does a great job of giving application to everything he's teaching. All right, and the third then is the gift of serving and the gift of administration. They are usually the opposite. Servers make great king builders, and administrators are usually keen to the servers, and administrators a lot of times like being king too. All right, here's something else that might be helpful to you when you're done. If you want to go back and count, look at how many times you filled in that center one that said not very often. This can be, again, confirmation for one of two gifts. The gift of prophecy. Most people with the gift of prophecy do not mark very many occasionally, because to them everything is black or white. There's no in between. There's no gray. Then you go down to the administrator. Administrators very seldom mark the occasionally, because most administrators are very decisive. It's either yes or no. There's no maybes to it. So if you come up high in either of those two gifts, that could be another thing you could look at that could give you confirmation on those gifts. All right, and the last is something I like to stress, is remember there are 4 teaching gifts. It gets confusing because one of the gifts is called the gift of teaching. So I've had people come up very high in the gift of exhortation and say, I shouldn't be teaching, I don't have the gift of teaching. No, it is a teaching gift, it's just a different style of teaching. Pastor shepherd, as I said earlier, some call it the hyphenated gift. It is pastor teaching in the King James, and therefore if you have the gift of shepherding, it is teaching. Now the prophet is again a different style of teaching, but preaching is teaching. So there's 4 teaching gifts, not just one, although there's only one called teaching. All right, let's move on. Grab your workbooks again, and we'll look at D. You might want to evaluate those comments you wrote on page 3 with a member of the ministry placement team. A lot of times, just a simple statement there can identify your gift. Somebody might say, our church just doesn't have enough evangelism programs. We're not doing enough outreach. That's a pure indication of someone having a gift of evangelism. And right on, there's a lot of different comments, things that I would like to do. Evaluate that with somebody with the ministry placement team. It can be very effective, again, in supporting the gift that you have. All right, E, discard the gifts you obviously do not have. Now you saw my inventory, and you saw where I was on mercy showing. I do not need to be in a ministry where I'm ministering to the physically challenged. right? Because it's just, I'm not going to be effective. I'm not going to be any good at it. So those gifts that you obviously do not have, discard them. Now, you can't ignore them. You still can't say, oh, the heck with those people, right? But you can't ignore them. But that's not the area you want to strive to get involved in ministry in, is what I'm saying. All right, select the top three from your inventory. What are the top three gifts that you have? All right, be available, function in these areas as a helper or assistant. If you're not involved in ministry and you come back and you say, I've got the gift of administration. I'm not involved in ministry, so give me a leadership position in the church. No, you're not qualified yet to be in a leadership position in the church. Give me a position where I can work with a good leader as an assistant, as a helper, and let that person mentor me and help me start developing and using and developing my gift of administration, whatever that gift is. Don't expect to start at the top like anything else. It's a a capacity. Start developing that capacity into an ability, and eventually you'll find yourself in a leadership role on your own. This is what I used to teach for several years in teaching spiritual gifts. I mean, it was only logic. You discover your gift, you develop the gift, and you use it. Doesn't that sound right? Wrong. Here it is. Discover, use, develop. You can't steer a ship till you get it moving. And the same is true here. You need to discover your gift, or as we come back and let me say, recognize your gift, because again, your gift is part of who you are. It's part of who God has made you. Once you recognize that gift, and then you start using it in an area, and that's when you'll develop it and become more effective and more efficient in your area of ministry. All right, G, look for satisfied desires, enjoyment, results, and recognition. If you're using the gift that God has given you, you're going to have satisfied desires, and you're going to have results. One guy says, I've got the gift of teaching, but my students don't have the gift of learning. Well, if your students don't have the gift of learning, you probably don't have the gift of teaching, because somebody's going to be learning something, because you have to have, there needs to be some results, and other people will recognize that in you as well. So, page 13. Now, I'm not going to ask you to sign this, to put your name in there right now, because this is a commitment, what's here. And I don't want to say everybody here, now write your name in right now and I'll force you into a commitment, because it's not a commitment to me. It's not a commitment to your church. It's not a commitment to your pastor. It's a commitment to God. So I would only put my name in there. I wouldn't put it in there very lightly. So you need to, give some time to prayer, and if you would like to do that, I would encourage you to do that, but only if you're willing to make that commitment to God. But I would like you to do is to read it with me, and I'll put my name in. I, Larry Gilbert, am created in the image of God, redeemed by the grace of God, filled and gifted by the Spirit of God, and chosen by the hand of God to serve alongside him for the redemption of mankind. Therefore, I will joyfully serve him for the rest of my life. And I believe that's why God has given us our spiritual gifts, so we can serve him, so we will be more complete. We talked about stewardship, and usually when we use that word stewardship, the first thing that pops in our mind is money. Well, spiritual gifts and money are very similar in the sense, see, God doesn't ask us Christians to tithe and to give to the church because he couldn't figure out a way of supporting the church. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He could support the church in many different ways financially, but he has asked us to give because we are incomplete until we do give. And the same is true with our spiritual gifts. We are incomplete until we are using that gift in serving him and serving those around us. Now, I'm going to close in prayer, but I'm going to be here. So if anybody has questions they wish to ask, you can ask them right as a group right now from where you sit. I'll stay right here and try to answer them. Or when we all start to breaking up here, if you want to come to me one-on-one, I will. I'll be happy to do that as well. So I'm very glad that you're all here. Once again, let me thank you for taking what appeared to be, when I was out at lunchtime, a very beautiful day. Where it might not be beautiful to you all here in the South yet, but coming from Maryland, this is a beautiful day. And so I thank you all for being here. I thank the church and the pastor. By the way, the pastor had to leave. He had an obligation for this afternoon that he had to go to. So again, thank you. Father, I thank you for the opportunity to be here. I pray that what I've said today has resonated with individuals, and I pray that there'll be more people here willing to serve you, and so not only just serve you, but to serve you in an effective way, in an efficient way, and in a way that'll help this church continue to grow. It's a great church, and it has a great promise for the community here. The community's growing, and we just pray that out of this, what's happening today, there'll be more people reach for Christ, more people will be growing, more people will become more Christ-like. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.